You're listening to Late Night Talks with Pastor Chris Alston.
As always, it's not who you call me. It's not what they call me, but it's simply who I answer to. Greetings and salutations. My name is Pastor Chris Alston, and welcome to another edition of Late Night Talks with Pastor Chris. I hope everybody has had a week thus far. I want to do this right as I always do. And before I give my fancy introduction and make this thing right, let's set the mood and set the tone as we always do. Again, welcome to Late Night Talks with Pastor Chris Alston. You know, on this show, we talk about wholeness. We talk about wellness from time to time. We talk about mind, body, spirit, and soul. And we believe that to fulfill the calling God has on our lives, we have to be here to walk it out. Tonight's guest is a man who is very near and dear to my heart, who has made it his life's mission to ensure that our zip codes don't determine our lifespans. He is a giant in the field of public health, a researcher who doesn't just stay in the lab, but takes the truth directly to the streets where it's needed most. He has some major credentials and a connection to the Tar Heel State because he is a native right here to the great state of North Carolina, and he's carrying that soulful Southern heart into a global fight, ladies and gentlemen. He is a nationally recognized leader in cancer disparities, a published scholar in the world's leading medical journals like The Lancet, I hope I said that right, and his expertise has been featured everywhere from HuffPost to ESPN. But more than the accolades, he is a man of action, ladies and gentlemen. He is the founder and president of the Colorado Cancer Equity Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to one thing: saving lives through early detection and eliminating the gaps that have left our undeserved communities behind for far too long. After years of leading the way in academic medicine, he stepped out to bridge the gap between science and the community as the founder and chief advisor of Rogers Solution Group. He's helping organizations turn high-level strategy into real-world, measurable impact. He is an architect of change, a champion of health equity, and a brother who is truly his brother's keeper. I know personally that is very true. He's here tonight to talk about health, legacy, and how we can take control of our future. Family, please help me welcome to the show the man turning research into a movement, Dr. R. Rogers. Dr. Rogers, my friend, welcome to Late Night Talks. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for the hype music. I don't know if the intro was hot or the beat.
I try, and I be telling y'all, don't sleep on Pastor Chris. I'm a very multifaceted man. I try my best, but man, this is all about you, man. I had to do it. We make things iconic around here, sir. Iconic as possible. So we're going to go ahead and get into this if you don't mind. We go way back, but we can talk about that another day. But the purpose here is to really, talk about you and you to tell your story and how you're transforming lives everywhere. So I believe what you're on is a calling from the Most High God, no doubt. And so you often speak about passion leading to purpose. So was there a specific moment or a divine nudge that led you to focus your life's work on health equity?
It is. So, first of all, thanks again for having me.
Yes, sir.
And, as many people may be watching, I don't like chicken houses. If you don't know what a chicken house is, don't Google it because you may stop eating meat.
Oh, gosh.
I'm from an area where deer were eating all year round. They were totally okay. And so I actually grew up around health disparities, but I had no idea, losing, cousins having massive strokes at age 50, my uncle having a massive heart attack at 55, possibly taking his life, all these different things. So, I figured like this was normal. Early, that's what happens. But as I got a whole education, I started to see how big disparities were, but the real, a nudge actually happened in North Carolina. In the summer of 2009, we had noticed that we had lost a lot of weight. The figure like, oh, she's eating better, cleaning up.
Right.
She was out there having her best life, doing the chop slide, the electric slide. You fast forward a few months later in 2009, and she's misdiagnosed 5 to 7 times from hospitals in Chapel Hill and in Charlotte. And she has stage 4 colorectal cancer. It's only 4 stages. 4th stage is the worst stage.
Right.
So back then, for being diagnosed with stage 4, she had less than 10% chance of surviving. Versus she was diagnosed with stage 0 or 1, she had a 90% chance of surviving. And so with me being very educated, I had never heard about colorectal cancer, which we'll try to short form as CRC for the rest of the talk today. So we do a tongue twisters out here. I've never heard of CRC. I only heard about black, prostate cancer for black men and breast cancer for black women. And so when I actually, started my career at A&M that next summer, in 2011, I did a fellowship in Michigan working with a chief colorectal surgeon who was trying to figure out why, black people had, colorectal cancer or CRC, they would get surgery, but they wouldn't chemo. And so I saw if you had a poor black man or a poor white man, poor white man would move forward with getting surgery to make sure that everything was taken care of. Get chemo to make sure that everything was taken care of. Versus the poor black man would stay at home and work to make sure that he could, make sure everything was over and provide for his family. Then I saw if you had a black man who was doing well off financially, he would get 4 or 5 opinions before he would get chemo. And so that's when I started to learn about how social determinants of health impact us. So in regards to where you live, work, if you, like if you have a support system, if you have health insurance, if you're black in regards to not your skin color, but more so how you treat in society from the structural racism standpoint, that's when I started to get this light bulb in terms of like, oh shoot, my aunt getting misdiagnosed, not normal. You know what I'm saying? On top of that same summer, I learned that the screening age is actually recommended to be 45 for black people to start screening in 2008. My aunt got misdiagnosed several times in 2009 at 52.
Ooh.
And historically, it takes that's why we say that colorectal cancer is preventable, beatable, treatable. It's the only cancer where you actually can do this exam called colonoscopy that can remove polyps before it turns into cancer. So historically, those polyps take 5 to 10 years to turn into cancer. All right, let's do some math. She had it at 52. You even go back 5 years, what age is it?
47.
47. The screening age is recommended to be 50. All right. Again, your before she was diagnosed, some other leaders were saying black people should get screened at 45 because people get diagnosed at an earlier age, in a more advanced stage. Worst case scenario is you had it 10 years before that. That's 42. Again, the screening age was 50.
Right.
So why would she get screened at 42? That's my grandma, her mom had a history. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was the thing when it just started happening, I started putting these pieces together, where I learned that it was actually recommended for black people to get screened earlier because of those disparities I mentioned. But even on top of that, Chris, that's when I learned that black men have the highest chances of getting CRC and dying from it compared to everybody, males and females, for like over 20 years. And nobody was trying to do it. So I said, oh, we out here just dying from this.
Yeah.
And ain't nobody doing it. And my background before was like national stats.
Right.
But from that experience, the Iowa experience that I had in Michigan, that was a game changer. That's when I started to shift a little bit.
Right.
Especially for public health, with my Aunt Joanne.
Right.
But I really shifted after I had that experience. I got more clarity for where I needed to be. And that's where I've been ever since to get where I am today.
Man, the peek behind the curtain just a little bit, I'm familiar with a lot of this, but this is some good information that you're putting out, because it was a man by the name of Dr. Charles R. Rogers who told me some years ago that, we as people need to start saying me too, or at least speaking up, because that's just something in the community that we don't do enough of, is being transparent. Because we're like, I don't want everybody to know my business. And, coming from that and being a native son to North Carolina, and you kind of alluded to it, but if you don't mind digging a little bit deeper into it, how did your upbringing in the South shape your understanding of community and the disparities that exist in healthcare?
Man, with the community piece, it was everything. Now, like, I know you because we live.
Right.
My mom worked a lot. She worked on Sundays, and so your mama made sure I was in church every Sunday.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And if there was like Asian Bible school transportation, your mom or somebody else leaves you out. And then even like the environment where like you stay out late to play, there was no video videos like that. Like we was out in the woods, work didn't need to be, pay, treating, break our own, staying at somebody else's house, but it was like it was always there was no about so we got work on that in terms of people taking advantage of you and all of that. You know, like it was really a tribe, and everybody on that road worked. Um, and so, that's where I really learned. Growing up, and even with being grandma living right next door, my grandma was like my other mom. It's my left me a lot and my values, my work from my grandma with my mom. But with the disparities piece, back to the piece you noted about like being transparent, something one of my colleagues said that it's killed generations. So let's break that down. If I did not know my Aunt Joanne was diagnosed at age 52 with breast cancer, I would have known at the age of 43 years, and I should have got screened at age 42 because that's 10 years before she was diagnosed. So because I knew that, I screened at 42. I'm 43 as a judge. So I got screened in December at 42, and they took 2 follows. By the grace of God, they were fine. But if I had just waited till I even waited till I was 50, I'd be about there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
And
sir.
possibly, if some sleep I ever had, it was not that bad because of the options that don't have as much liquid that people don't know about. I've seen it appeal the same thing. Well, but I did this fantastic trip, had the best sleep, and I ain't got to go back in years.
And I love that because I was just about to ask you about that because I'm coming up on 42 next year, and so I was actually just thinking about that just because I know for me personally, internally on my dad's side, diverticulitis and diverticulosis, runs in my family. I had him, my uncle, and a
Mhm.
great aunt, and so I said, yeah, I'm trying to learn from the I don't want to say mistakes, but just the lives of others.
Yeah, yeah. It's like diverticulitis, most of the family history, general together, the thing to decrease your risk. You know what I'm saying? So when they say, okay, 55 is the new 50, it used to be 50, but now it's 45, 45 is the screening age, and people who are average risk. But I would argue that people ain't never been average because they recommended 40 a day. You see what I'm saying?
Right. No, I absolutely
So,
understand that. Wow. Absolutely, and I try to. I know, taking one of those take home tests, take home screenings, and I don't want to butcher the name, but it was at that last event. I think it was back last year when you came,
yeah,
huh? And so I done one last year, and then I actually did the follow up a year later, which was a couple weeks ago rather. And well,
okay.
right, everything was good based on that test. So that was a lifesaver, you know,
Yeah.
to
So
some
let me
degree.
give a context. I don't know what you're talking about. So what
Right.
it is there is the stool-based blood in your stool. My foundation actually provides Charles Winter in stock. But basically, it looks like there's blood in your stool. Colorectal cancer is what are some other things. So, you're not at 45. You can get these things that you're concerned about. You're good, get some heads up. But if Chris would have needed to go ahead on us, that's still the gold standard that gives you the problem. And so again, a colonoscopy actually, looks inside your intestines to see close, and polyp can actually be removed before they turn into cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, hey, it's a bit, these things are a bit uncomfortable to talk about, and these screens and these tests might sound uncomfortable to do. but we're all about, staying healthy and doing our best to get in front of things before they get much worse. You touched on.
And I'll
Go
add
ahead.
to your,
Go
I'll
ahead.
add that the screening is a book. I guarantee you cancer is more common than this.
That part. Amen. I mean, you said a lot right there.
You just go up, you know, out of here.
Right. That's the word nobody wants to hear. We don't want to hear,
Right.
Lord willing. So no, that's very good information. And you touched on how about family secrets and holding on to certain things. So breaking the silence through all this, colorectal cancer is often a quiet topic in our communities, and we touched on that. Could you kind of expound and go a little bit more deeper into why it's so critical that we start having these uncomfortable conversations in our barbershops, our churches, and living rooms? Because we don't do this enough. We get too uncomfortable, but we need to have these conversations. Could you be a little, expound more on that?
Yeah. Is because I learned that for us as black men back in two gracious and back it's 16 years ago, black men had a 52% higher chance of dying from color cancer than a white man. You fast forward to now, the 20% higher chance of getting it than white men, and a 40% higher chance of. But the thing that people need to remember, prep colon, you can get colon cancer. So the disparities are also black women have a 14% getting CRC than white women, and 25% higher chance of dying. So we need to talk about it because it's impacting us more. We need to talk about it more because the big hot topic now is I saw, almost 20 years ago, colorectal cancer among people under age 50 is the leading cancer killer among everybody. As of 2026, projecting that this was going to happen, it's actually been rising about.
Wow. I mean, that sounds unbelievable just for you even to say that out loud, that at this point it's affecting everybody.
Yeah, and when I say like, it mean like 48, like 28.
Lord,
Right.
you hit me. I didn't know that. I mean, and this is the sad part. Why would I know that? That's why we have experts like you to talk about this. Like you hit me with something I wouldn't. Wow. So
And so
we
what
really
I've
out
been
here like living reckless at this point, and we just. I mean,
Yeah, so the way I make framing the urgency of it, Chris, the same way that black individuals have conversations with their kids about law enforcement,
Mm.
that's how you should be having conversations with your kids about things that they should look for in terms of be covered against. You see what I'm saying?
I do. I want
That's how big it is. There's children 10 years old, we have 3 stage 4.
Wow. I mean,
So there's this misconception that it's an old person thing.
yeah.
The old person is time.
Wow. I want to even let that breathe and let that marinate for a second. Did y'all hear that? Dr. Rogers is saying that, we need to start talking more the same way we talk about law enforcement in our communities and how we're supposed to conduct ourselves, the same way that some of us are afraid to have to talk with our children about sexual education. We need to start having these talks about our health before it's too late. Wow, man, that you put me on a lot of game, it's got me thinking again.
Oh, I don't care if you to me in court or you run to me. You talking to me? I'm gonna have you getting screened next week.
It's funny, but I believe you. But no, that's important. It's important at this point. Right. No, I mean, it's too important at this time. And I want to move it along, but I want to stay in this conversation. But that's why you founded the Colorectal Cancer Equity Foundation to have these conversations and to educate people with all the research that you do. What are the overall biggest hurdles you face when trying to increase early detection in underserved areas?
Yeah, it varies. But don't trust the health system. They've seen it with the black and brown people wrong. So they don't trust it, or even themselves, but they don't. If you think about news, masculinity is in terms of thinking a sexuality, if they get screened, I actually have a scale that I've developed, the masculinity scale, and some of the key constructs of it. The provider role and important to provide for their family. take care of themselves, more willingness to what they think is wrong with them on on the internet versus talk. Another route is fear of it. So whether it be for prostate, cold, they ain't down. And another thing that's a step area for me in my life is fear. Fear of the like people say they rather know. They, they rather just out in strange find out. And so we have to be able to take there and where I like to say at call it famous. Because think about it, Chris. If only becomes famous with someone Chadwick Boseman, 43, everybody talking about it. The Black Panther, he was a real superhero. The black lady that was a person in Baps with Holly Berry.
Yeah. I forgot about that sister.
People talking about David. You know what I'm saying? Recently with James Vanderbeek. People talk about it. And even the lady that was older, she passed away. Monica Lewinsky. Then don't talk about it no more. That had to change. That's why UCB. I talk about it when he passed away. Cancer awareness week every day, every week, every year, every month.
Nah, you right about that. I remember last year when you came up to Raleigh, and we were having the Made in North Carolina festival, and you kept it real the whole time, and that was at a quote unquote industry media event, but we have to have these conversations so we're not shocked by surprises in the end, and surprises in the end are finding out we passed by something that we could have prevented.
Right.
So these conversations they have to have. So in your research, you researched so much. You've researched the social detriments of health. So for the average person watching tonight, how do things like housing or zip codes affect someone's chance of surviving cancer, specifically colorectal?
Yeah, I got a colleague out of it. He said that your DNA is more important, and DNA is right to zip codes.
Right.
And so, there's been so many that section where we that's just, we lived on the, I know for me, I had no, for phone number, right? But just say we lived in Pittsburgh as an example. If you live in Pittsburgh, it's not accurate, but I'm just giving where you live matters. And the data says and shows that if you live in Pittsburgh, you die 5 years earlier than if you live. And you don't know. You just live here because of whatever. Your family grew up there.
Right.
But there are different things that are in those communities that impact that, whether it be like access to walking space or like factories nearby or all kinds of different things that like people being treated differently. Like law enforcement may be harsher in Pittsburgh than they are. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
It's like where you live in terms of how it, affects you. Does that answer your question?
No, it really did, because, a lot of times we can't help where we grew up at. And so to even put it down like that just gives you another nugget to think about, that basically kind of like, go ahead.
And the real sad part is that this happens a lot. So I've done work where I would identify where a lot of men were dying at younger age, at like the Northern Virginia, Florida, a lot in the Appalachia area, like the Texas Delta area. Those areas tend to have people that are poor, like the Appalachia area type issues, but then also a lot of Black people. Right. And so I also done work, got really big, like people might work with spots for COVID. The places for COVID where more people were dying. So it's also structural. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. No,
it tends to be areas where Black realm of people going to this, like as in other places. It can be the same state. So that's why I wanted to give the example of so people can really concept about like that feeling. Like there's been places where it's like say, okay, at this time you live to be 55, but down at this time you live to be 50. And then you slow down and be like, yeah, 55, that's where all the black people at.
Right.
Up here at 75, that's where all the white people.
Right. I mean, that's very true. You're getting into another conversation of not only how race plays a part, but how just overall classism plays a part in our healthcare system. This is what we mean by systematic disparities. And I'll let you do with that what you will to all my listeners out there this evening. But this is what we're talking about when we're talking about systematic or systemic disparities via class, when we're talking about rich and poor, or race, black and white, as we know it here in this country. Now, this is some good information, brother. This is really good information. Man, you had a successful career in academia. I know how thorough you are in academia, and a lot of others do too. So what inspired you to transition into the real world impact space with Rogers Solutions Group?
Yeah, so I've been consulting on strategic advisory for a while. When I actually was working on my first master's at Kansas State here in uh, because I had a skill set in terms of doing tasks, and like I put my name up on the board, and people like, hey, can you keep our data now? I'll do it because you're gonna pay me. But once I actually got married, it actually turned it into a formal practice, and it was pretty good. It would give me extra for the holiday and things like that. But in terms of the past years, I was in an environment that wasn't respectful of my family or my peace, and I don't care how much money you get, it ain't worth that. So I made a choice to pivot to go into entrepreneurship.
Got it. You said something very key about your family, and I want to tie this into another question. So you're a very smart individual. I know this, and sometimes you can throw around these terms that a lot of people don't understand when we're talking about science, but you've always sat at a pretty humble intersection of science and community and the everyday person. So how do you translate complex medical research that can be beneficial to just families and saving lives?
Meet people where they are and always. And so that means that, doing research, I'm at barbershops, think fairs, which are a big deal in West in Texas. I've been in the churches. I've been in the bar on Tuvo Sunday before the game show. I've been at like little house parties where men are. And so meeting them there, but even platforms like this, people can always listen to a podcast when they're on the road or when they're working out in the gym. And the key, Chris, is to talk to them in a way they understand. And so, I actually had training when I was in Minnesota, focus on public policy. So I knew I was doing great work. Anybody reading my paper? So that taught me how to be on TV, newspaper articles, and break it up, understand, and take all the jargon out and speak more that in a way that people understand it. And that's been a game changer, man. That's why I've been on ESPN several times. I've been ESPN headquarters. I've been rolling out a HuffPost, Tech last week. Platforms because I know how to talk with it and people can really understand.
Yeah, and you and
so it's non-negotiable for me.
Right, it shouldn't be, and you do. And I just want to salute you, man. You do a very awesome job, and you make us here in the great state of North Carolina, specifically the Taylor's Chapel community, very very proud. If you know, you know. Yeah, if you don't, hey, we come from humble beginnings, but you do us so proud because one thing that I admire, I tell people, when you're on media outlets and you're talking, one thing that I love about the fact is you don't switch up your personality. You have the degrees and you have the background. I was like, this brother keeps it real. He don't switch code or and I love it though. I love it because it's relatable. It doesn't matter where you are. You keep it real. He be suited and booted, but this is I respect him, but this is Charles Rogers. This is Dr. Rogers, man. Come on. I love that, man. We need more of that, out here in the corporate spaces, because we feel like that we can't still be us, and we have to, and I know we got to get there. Everybody, has to arrive to that point in their due time. 2 more questions, and I'm gonna let you go because you're a busy man.
Okay.
Give me one myth you hear from Black men regarding colorectal cancer screening, and how do we debunk it?
One myth.
Give me one.
Give you one. I'm going to give one that's not as Black.
Okay.
So you know how Black people, when they cut me open, they're hit. That's when the cancer spread.
Right.
Let's focus on COVID.
Okay.
Try to give an example early.
Right.
That means I have a family history.
Right.
I should get screened. Now I'm 43.
Mhm.
Because I had a family history.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I
So
do.
it's like when they open you up or whatever, it's not that you're hitting it that made it spread. You more than likely wait next grade to go to the doctor. Body is like a car. When that check in, you're like, come on, Chris, you gotta take it to the shop.
That's right.
Next thing you know, you need to sit on the side of the road. Because now you're transitioning by the car. Versus if you would have just went when the light came on, you might just had to get an oil change. Get something. You see what I'm saying? And so I like to clear up the myth, the myth that, once people open you up with something that the cancer spread, if they gotta open up anyway, because you're already advanced, you see what I'm saying?
Right. I totally agree.
So how we overcome that is being comfortable having these type of conversations. Like if you see blood in your stool, or your stool is the size of an ink or pen, or you ain't had a bowel movement in several days and you usually do it regularly, or you're just losing weight, doing cocaine or working out. All those were warning signs your body saying, hey,
Right.
help. But unfortunately, a lot of people need God to put them on their knees, really, literally stop them by something like cancer for them to get things together. And so it usually, as a pastor, you see, when people have real scares, that's what want to come to Jesus and things.
Right.
And that's a whole other podcast.
No, you're right. You're right. You talking good though. You preaching. You preaching. And you stepped on my toes, too, because if we are blessed to continue to grow, nobody's getting any younger. If you have figured that out, please let me know. I want a piece of that. But I know that's not happening. Man, that's some great information. Great information. So last question, and then I'm gonna let you leave with the final thought of encouragement to the next guest and someone out there struggling. So you work with organizations to turn strategy into impact. So if you could change one thing about our national health policy tomorrow to help our community, what would it be?
Free healthcare for everybody.
Say that again.
Free healthcare for everybody.
One more time for the people in the back.
Free healthcare for everybody. So let me break this down.
Go ahead.
We call it insurance. Insurance, everybody, but because the insurance free, and it is very complex. All money. It's all about making money. So that's why I'm earning this healthcare. So that means if you got about a snot coming out your nose, but you break your arm, you get that for free. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Look at other countries. That's why they have better health outcomes. Whole person. So for example, I just had with a colleague from the UK, and she has paternity leave for a year. A year? We might get 3 months. Don't let's talk about the dude. You might to leave and you have a child. And we already know about how the disparity in terms of the maternal health here. You'll see they're not as bad in other countries. Things like that. They actually have care systems instead of sick kids.
So I'm going to leave you here right now, if you don't mind, just giving a word of encouragement from your heart to the people and also to the next guest.
Yeah. So the next guest, hope you watch Before you get on and you go get, you order a fit kit, school kit, mix kit for colorectal cancer. But my encouragement would be to know that cancer is a word. It's not a sentence. But we can only change that narrative if we take care of it too.
Amen. Man. Amen. That's the word.
And then my advice for the next person.
Go ahead.
Comparison is the thief of the joy. Is the thief of the joy. So whatever you are on this podcast, it's because you're great at it, and that's what you need to be great at. Me, because your biggest competitor is you, not me.
Oh, your biggest competitors is you, not me. Did I hear that right?
It's you.
Whoa,
you heard it right. Comparison is the thief.
Yes. Hey, to God be the glory, and that is a good way to end. And so, where can they find you? Give out your socials or anything, so people can get more information.
Yeah, so CR Roger. The middle name is Ray. Roger, ROGERS, like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. PhD. So CR Rogers, PhD. Same across all platforms. But if you keep to visit CRRogersPhD.com, you can learn a lot more about me. Everything, whether it be consulting, my foundation, or my lab, or some different things that I've been involved with. You can do that. But also, I'm at an appointment. Just Google it. Google Dr. Charles. Don't forget the R. Roger. And I'll come up everywhere in a good way.
He will, ladies and gentlemen. He's not lying. He's telling the truth. He will. Do your Googles. Do your Googles. Do your Googles. Right. Nah, but do your Googles. This brother is big time. He's good brother, good friend, and he's doing good work for the community. And what I'll also do, just to help everybody out, you'll also find this information in the Facebook description, live here in this video, and on YouTube live on the video channel description. All right, brother. I appreciate your time, man. And as always, I appreciate you for watching. We do this every Saturday night live at 10 o'clock. Thank you for all the support. Have a blessed weekend. And as we always say, it's never too late to start over.
Well, thank you for joining us on Late Night Talks with Pastor Chris Alston. Good night.
And that was Raleigh. Or you have